What is up, you guys? Welcome to my YouTube channel. If you're new here, my name is Mackenzie. If you're not new, thank you for coming back. So in today's video, we're not actually going to be making anything. It's going to be really quick and easy, but I get a lot of questions on essentially taking care of your grinder, how to clean it, what do you do with the glass mud, all sorts of stuff like that. So I figured I would just make an entire video dedicated to essentially how to care for your grinder and how to clean it out to keep it in tip-top shape. So if that sounds like something you guys are into, let's get started. Okay guys, so before we get into specifically showing you how I personally care for and clean my grinder inside and out, there are quite a few things that I want to talk about first. So those most commonly asked questions that I get, I've got my notes right here just so I don't forget anything. And of course, I've got my Gryphon convertible grinder right here. It doesn't matter what kind of grinder you have at home, the majority of this information is going to be universal, maybe with the exception of quickly talking about this pump and this tube if you don't have one of those. But other than that, all of this information is going to be pretty much universal or interchangeable. So let's just jump right into it. So number one on my list is going to be follow the manufacturer directions. So I'm always going to suggest to you guys, no matter what kind of machine you get, if you've used it before or not, always hold on to the manufacturer directions or any of the information that comes with that specific machine. So not only do I suggest that because if you have some random obsolete question, you have the directions to just quickly refer to before you even have to go online or call anybody, but they're going to be the best people to tell you how to specifically care for and clean out that machine. So follow the manufacturer directions and always hold on to them no matter how familiar you are or how long you are into your stained glass career. I hold on to all directions that come with any machine. They're the best people to tell you how to take care of it. Okay, number two. Always empty the water out. I know there are going to be some of you guys out there that don't feel like it's necessary to empty that water out every single time you're done grinding, but I'm going to urge you to. So emptying out that water is going to lengthen the life of your grinder and make it easier on you guys. I know it might seem like a pain in the butt, but again, I make stained glass all day, every single day, especially for those first 2-3 years of my career. I was working nonstop. Quite literally nonstop, didn't even take a day on the weekend. So I'm making a lot of glass, which means I'm grinding a lot of glass. So if I can take the time to empty it out every single time I'm done, you guys can too. It's going to be, in the long run, much better for you and much better for your grinder. Dump that nasty water out, and then next time you're ready to grind, you can just put some nice fresh water inside and you're good to go. Okay, number three, not two, three. Number three, clean out your grinder. So beyond just dumping out that nasty water every single time you're done grinding, you need to clean it out inside and out every single time you're done grinding as well. If you let that stuff settle inside your grinder, don't clean it out, don't clean the outside, don't clean the grid, it's going to cause so many problems for not only your work, your glass specifically, but for the grinder itself. So after you dump that nasty water out, of course, I'm going to show you guys at the end of the video how specifically I do this. You need to scrape all of that nasty glass mud out, get all of those glass shards out of the way, put fresh water in, dump that out, give it a good scrub, make sure this thing is as spotless as you can get it before you put it away. So you've got to dump that water out. Number three, you've got to scrape all that nasty glass mud out, get all the glass shards out too. I know, seems like a pain in the bum, but I'm just telling you guys my suggestions. Okay, number four, use oil on your grinder bit. So this is not something that I knew way back when I first started, and I encountered a problem because of it maybe 6 months into making stained glass. So 6 months into making stained glass, one day I went to go change my grinding bit and I could not get it off the grinding bit shaft. It was stuck on there. I had to fight that grinder so hard with pliers to try to rip that grinding bit off when all I had to do was just use some oil. So you can use just that basic 3-in-1 super cheap oil, take that grinder bit off, put a couple drops of that oil onto that grinding bit shaft, and you're good to go. That's going to lengthen the life of the grinding bit shaft and make it a whole lot easier for you to slide on and off that grinder bit when you are changing it out or putting a new one on. So yeah, definitely put oil inside that grinding bit and in between the grinding bit and on that grinding shaft. It's going to make it a whole lot easier, and it's really going to prevent that thing from rusting up, caking up, or prevent your grinder bit from really getting caked on and stuck to that grinding bit shaft. You do not want that to happen. Trust me from experience. Okay, while we're talking about the grinder bit and the grinder bit shaft, do not leave your sponge on the grinding bit. So I know this might sound contradictory, but I know, again, there are going to be some of you guys out there that insist on just leaving that water inside your grinder bit, whether it's super dirty or is super clean. I'm not going to suggest it, but I know there will still be some of you guys that do it. So if you're insisting on leaving that water inside the grinder, at least take the sponge outside the back of the grinding bit. If you leave that wet sponge soaking up water for weeks at a time and having it sit on that grinder bit, it's going to destroy the grinder bit. So even though the grinder isn't running, because it's a sponge, it's going to constantly soak water up from the water basin and keep that grinding bit wet. And where it keeps it wet, it's going to absolutely wear and tear on that grinder bit. So if you insist on keeping water inside your grinder, the very least you can do is just pull that sponge out from the back side of your grinding bit so it at least can dry out. Okay, number 6, cleaning the grid. So like I said, we've got to clean as best we can, not only the inside of our grinder, but the outside of our grinder and the grid as well. If you don't scrub the actual grid itself, it is going to cake up with glass mud and glass shards, and you don't want that, not only because it's going to probably cut your hands when you rest them on it, but it's absolutely going to scratch the backside of your glass. Again, this is something I've learned from experience. So while you're cleaning your grinder out, just take the extra couple minutes to wipe down and clean off your grid. Otherwise, you're going to have trouble down the line. And you don't want to have to buy another one of these grids if you don't have to. And the only way to avoid that is to just take care of it. Just takes a couple minutes to rinse it off, scrape off all that glass mud, and this is going to last just as long as the grinder, as long as you take care of it. Okay, so this isn't going to be an actual number, just in case you guys don't have this too, but make sure you're taking care of your water pump. If you have a hose and you have a water pump, make sure you're never running your machine without water going through this water pump. It's got to be able to reach it, and if you notice that this hose is slowing down, you want to try to clean it out. So you can use a different type of needle nose bottle, fill that with water, and force clean water through that hose to try to push that blockage through. You want to make sure that the machine isn't working overtime just trying to push water through it, because that's kind of defeating the purpose of keeping the machine cool and keeping the bit cool. If it's going to have to work extra hard just to push water through, it's going to probably end up overheating your grinder over time, I would imagine anyway. So keep your hose clean as best you can. Okay, number 7, do not push hard on your grinder bit. Again, this is something I did when I first started, and I know I did it bad, which is one of the main reasons why I was so originally impressed with the Gryphette. I loved it so much because it was one of my first couple grinders, and I put that thing through hell. I know I was pushing so hard on that grinder bit because I didn't really understand the different types of grinder bits for different types of glass. So I wasn't getting the result as quick as I wanted. So I was pushing way too hard on that grinder bit, and that's going to, over time, destroy your grinder. Now, Gryphon specifically has a different type of motor inside the grinder. So chances are, even if you're pushing super hard, it's so strong that it's not going to destroy it. But of course, you don't want to do that on purpose. There's no need of you pushing your glass super hard up against that grinder bit. If you're finding yourself doing that, it's probably time for a new grinding bit because you're just trying to get it to move a little quicker. So try your best. There's no need to push your glass up against that grinding bit super hard. All you have to do is glide it up against the grinding bit, and it should be doing the work for you. Don't push super hard up against the grinding bit. Okay, number 8 and last one before we actually show you guys how I clean this out. Number 8, talking about grinder coolant. So grinder coolant is optional. And of course, if that's something you guys want to use, I'm always going to recommend the brand Novacan, just like I do for anything else. If you want to mix a little bit of grinder coolant inside of your water basin when you're using your grinder, you can absolutely do that. Personally, is it something I've ever done? No, it's not. And I don't think I've encountered any issues because of it. But if you do, I will always suggest Novacan. I trust that brand, and follow those manufacturer directions as far as how much grinder coolant to mix inside your water basin. Okay, so I think that's everything I wanted to talk about as far as grinder care. Of course, if you guys have any specific questions beyond that, leave them down in the comments below. I'm always around to answer them. Now, let's get into actually showing you guys how I specifically clean out the grinder and take care of it. Okay guys, so before I start cleaning this grinder out, I just wanted to give you guys a quick look at the glass mud bucket. So you can get one of these containers right at the Dollar Tree for $1, super cheap. And I've been using this bucket for quite some time. I'm pretty sure the entire time that I've been in this house, I've been here almost a year now. And again, I go through a lot of glass mud, and I haven't even come close to filling this thing up yet. It's gross. But this is what I use, this little scrapey tool and this bucket to get all of that glass mud outside from my glass grinder into the bucket safely. Okay, so I've got the top off of my grinder. Here's the little bin, and it's completely dry inside there now, but you can see I've got this little scrapey tool, and this is the most important thing. So this is what's gonna make it easiest to get all of this glass mud out. Now, you can tell that this is settled. This is the key too. So you cannot just go right in and clean your grinder out, or at least I don't. You have to give it a couple hours to just let settle, let all of this glass mud fall to the bottom so you can easily scrape it out, just like this, and right into the glass bucket. I'm gonna scrape it off the side and do my best to get all of this glass mud out as clean and as easy as possible. Okay, so now that I got the majority or the bulk of that glass mud out, what I'm gonna do is take it outside, get a nice large bucket of clean water, and take my scrubby brush. And what I'm going to do is continue to scrub all of that remaining glass mud away, put in fresh water, scrub it, dump it out safely outside, away from children, animals, somewhere safe outside. Then I'm gonna dump more fresh clean water in and do it again. More fresh clean water in and do it again. And I'm gonna do it until it's completely clean. Then you can put your grinder away nice and clean. You don't ever wanna leave water sitting inside your grinder. You take it out, fill it up. When you're ready to use it, then dump it out, clean it out when you're done. Can't just let it sit there. You gotta clean it up every single time. Okay guys, so obviously I couldn't take you outside with me to finish cleaning this thing out, but after I do that, then I take care of the grid. So like I said, you wanna take care of this grid. You don't want this thing to cake up with glass mud and glass shards. It will ruin the glass you're working on and probably your hands. So I do the same thing with this. I will take this scrub brush, dump some fresh water over the top, give it a good scrub, rinse it off again. Give it a good scrub, rinse it off again until it's as clean as I can possibly get it, you guys. I know, it seems like a tedious task, but it's what you have to do. These machines are not cheap by any means, and we have to have a whole lot of tools, so you might as well take care of them. Clean it as best you can. Get yourself a scrub brush. Get yourself a glass mud bucket. And I think that's it, guys. That is how I take care of and clean my glass grinder. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. If any of you guys out there have any extra tips on how you guys take care of and clean your glass grinder, don't forget to leave them down in the comments below. Also, feel free to let me know what you guys want to see next. Don't forget to subscribe, like this video if you did. If you want to check out my stained glass work or my stained glass business, that will be linked down below too. And if not, I'll see you next time. Bye.